everyone, welcome to my Flosstube channel, Thread the Needle. Today is November 1st and I'm sorry for the lighting if it's a little different than usual because I'm doing it at evening instead of in the daytime. So usually I have some sunlight coming through the window helping with the lighting in the room, but I didn't want to delay and do it tomorrow. I wanted to show you my updates that I have done in the last 2 weeks. I'm very excited. I got to work on 4 projects this week and each of them got a little bit of love and I'm so excited to show you. So let's get started. So the first one that my random project picking app picked for me was Ganesha. Now I think I had just started to do a little bit of progress on it in the last video, but I thought I would continue because I didn't get my 1,000 stitches because that's how I'm doing my rotation at the moment. I have decided to do a minimum of 1,000 stitches on a project before I rotate out into a new project. So it keeps my interest going because I have a very short attention span when it comes to projects. So I like to keep things fresh, and so but I give myself a limit at the same time. Otherwise, I'd probably never see a lot of progress on any of my projects. So they all just, get a little bit done and then move on to the next one. So 1,000 stitches minimum is my goal every time the project comes up to be stitched on. So let's start with Ganesha. This is a Heaven and Earth Designs chart and it is a full coverage. I'm doing it on 22 count fabric and it is 2/1 full crosses. And here is what I had done previously to from my last video, and since then I was able to put in a little over 1,100 stitches. So you will see that I will show you just the portion that I stitched and then I'll show you what I have done so far. So, I guess lighting's better this way. It's all different when it's natural lighting as opposed to fake lighting. Hey, all right. So, as you can see, I think I had like that much done on this page here. So I was able to stitch all the way across here. A lovely person who commented on one of my videos asked if I could possibly show what the final piece is supposed to look like. They wanted me to show the cover page. However, since I don't work from a paper copy, mine are PDFs, it's a little bit harder, but I thought I could just screenshot the picture of the finished product and show to you that way so you know what it's going to end up looking like. So here is Ganesha. This is what the final product is going to look like. As you can see, there's still quite a ways to go, but I'm getting there. And I don't know, I feel like I'm finally making a bit of a dent in it. So this is what it's going to look like. Let's see what I have done so far. So I'm on the second row, and as you can see, that's actually not bad. I mean, there we go. I've gotten quite a bit done and I'm super excited. The more I do, the more interesting and fresh that it gets. And especially because it's in a rotation, I don't get bored with it, especially with all that blues and black and navy. It was just getting very monotonous and I found that it was not fun to stitch on at all. So this way I found if I give myself mini goals, then I have a better chance of enjoying the stitch, and then there's a better chance that I don't put it aside and it become a UFO. So just to go over again, the way that I stitch currently at the moment on this project is I stitched all the way across the row, and just filling it in as I go. I cross country within that row. So that's how I decided to do that one. My method changes with every project. So let's see what the next one was. So the next one is Life is an Open Book. Let me show you what that is supposed to look like. I think I should turn the tablet this way so you can see it better. There we go. Okay, so this is, oh, they got the reflection there. There we go. This is the finished piece. So you can see that I've got this portion, that's what I'm working on, and then you got this building coming in, the clock tower, and then this portion right there. So this is what the final piece is going to look like. So let me show you what I've done so far. So that is Life is an Open Book, London. So this is how much. Now this one, if you remember from the last video, I started parking and quickly realized that wasn't going to work for me. So I had to finish all my parked threads first before I could decide on a stitching method that I wanted to do. This material and fabric is similar to Ganesha. They're the same thing. I think it's, I want to say it's Hardanger. I bought it such a long time ago. It was actually on sale, and they had like leftover fabric, and it was just in one of those bins, and I just grabbed a lot of it, and I was like, yeah, I like it. And I'm starting to lean towards 22 as my preferred fabric count to stitch with. I just love the coverage. It's very, very minute. And I do stitch with the 2/1, and that does make it a bit tight, but the coverage is fantastic. So this one again is the Life is an Open Book, London by Heaven and Earth Designs, 22 count. Don't ask me the color of the fabric, it's just this pale yellow fabric. And I'm stitching it 2/1 full crosses. I don't think I've ever stitched anything in 10 stitch. All my projects are full crosses. So here she is. This is how much I have done on her. So you can see, oh, that's quite bright. There we go. So this is shaping up so much nicely, so much more nicer than before. There was still lots of gaps and things, but the ivy that's coming out, and then you got the building, and then I think the second building is coming up. There we go. So it's shaping up really nicely. Now this one I decided to do in a diagonal, doing cross country in a diagonal. So basically if this wasn't already there, you'd only be seeing this triangle portion. But since I already had the threads parked, I needed to finish those first, get them out of the way, and then move on to my preferred method of stitching. I kind of am falling in love with the diagonal cross country. So basically what that means is, because all my fabric, I grid it, you'll notice the blue dots. So those are my 10 by 10 blocks. And I use a water-soluble pen. I've never had any issues with it leaving any color behind, even if I'm stitching white on top of it and you can see it through. Once the project is done and I give it a wash, the dots disappear. So it's just there purely for guidance. I always grid my fabric because I used to be a cross-country stitcher all the way across the page, and so you need to kind of mark your fabric so you know where you're going. Otherwise, there's a lot more counting. This way the counting becomes easier because you can count by 10, see where the block is. So once your fabric is gridded like that, it's much easier to go on the diagonal. And of course, if you're using Pattern Keeper, it has a feature where it will draw the diagonal lines for you, and so you know where you want to go. You can do 10 by 10 diagonals or 20 by 20. I am currently doing 20 by 20. So that means that, let's say 2 fingers are my 20 stitches across. So I will stitch all the stitches in this area and then move on to the next one this way. But a lot of people, what they do is in that first 20 by 20, they'll stitch it, then they'll park it, stitch it, then park it. I don't. I cross country within that 20 block diagonal before moving on to the next one. And there she goes. That's pretty much what I do. Now, the next project I have to show you. So my random project picking app one of the options that I entered was a UFO. And then I had to create another wheel for all my UFOs to decide which of the UFOs I was gonna. So I never thought the wheel would actually land on a UFO, but this week, or was this week? This week it did. And I'm so happy. You know, it's hilarious because sometimes I'll get kind of, I'll feel a little bit tense and think, oh my God, what is it going to make me work on? I don't know if I'm going to like this project that it picks, or should I just pick my own, but that feels like cheating. So I let the wheel do its business and I follow along with what it tells me to do, and it landed on a UFO. So I had to go to my second wheel and spin the UFO wheels, and boy, am I happy, because I haven't worked on this project in such a long time. And again, it's very similar to Ganesha in the sense that it has a very boring background, but that background is so important because it makes the picture pop. Like, if that Ganesha didn't have that background, I feel the colors and the picture would not be so sharp and wouldn't pop as much without this background, no matter how difficult that background is to stitch. I will do every stitch because it makes the final picture that much better. And the same can be said for this coming project that I'm going to show you now. Now, Heaven and Earth Designs has an option where they sell the patterns without the background. So I guess it's for people who really don't want to do the background, or if they have a colored fabric that they think will, you know, fit in well with the actual picture, then they'll use that. I debated about that for a while, but before they came with that option to get the background removed, I had already purchased my charts, so I didn't want to repurchase them just for the sake of not having a background. And like I said, it's totally worth it. Once you get it stitched, it looks amazing. So I decided to go on with it, and although I will admit, this one became a UFO because of the amount of black in the background. So how about I show you first what it's supposed to look like. It's called Ayana, and it's a Heaven and Earth Designs, and I believe I'm stitching it on 22 count for sure, but it's a white fabric, and I don't think it's Hardinger because it might be Lugana, but I wasn't very good at keeping track of what kind of fabrics I was stitching on when I purchased them. I was just too excited to start my project, so I just whipped them out of the bag and marked them off for which project I was going to use it for, and that was it. So I will probably get better at keeping track of it, but I digress. Here is what it's going to look like. It's called Ayana, and I think she is just completely gorgeous. She's so pretty. I don't know if you can see the picture very well. There you go. Isn't she nice? So, as you can tell, there's a lot of black. And so I'm still kind of stuck in the black portion. So I'm going to show you what I had done before, right here. And as you can see, I got the page done before it became a UFO, and just a tiny little corner of the actual picture done. So as you can see, you know, this is what it was. That's what I had done. And it was a bit of a fast stitch because it was all black. And as you can see, I'm going to try and continue with this diagonal stitching method. This diagonal, I finally got to do a little bit of color right here by the time I got to it. So the next diagonal should be nice. But as you can see, that is a lot of black. That's a lot of DMC 310. And there's a lot more to come. I mean, she's surrounded by black. But like I said, it makes her pop that much more. And so I'll put up with it and I'll persevere. Now that one, Ayana, I actually managed to get almost 2,000 stitches done because it was just almost black stitching. So it was a bit of a fast stitch on that one before I picked up my rotation again. So I'm not that upset. I'll move on with it. So next up, I was hoping I would get a little bit more done, but I've only been working on it for 3 days, so I didn't quite get it done to the level that I wanted to, but I did make quite a bit of progress on it. 2 things stopped me from, well, I guess it's one thing, but happened twice, stopped me from making a faster bit of progress on it. I ran out of the floss. So that meant a trip to Michael's. Then I used that color and I stitched again. And then I realized I ran out of another one. And I have a lot of backup floss because back in the day when I first started stitching, I did what everyone was recommending. I made up a little project box for every single project. So my projects, as you know, are heaven and earth designs, and each and every one of them have anywhere from, well, they average on 100 different floss colors. So that's how I started it. I had at the beginning so many projects and so many different boxes of all of the threads, and I thought, oh my God, it was tedious to have that many boxes lying around. So I changed my mind, and now I stitch from a master box. I have 4 boxes that fit all of my DMC colors, and all the threads that were left over from the previous boxes that had already been kitted, I made into a master supply. So usually, if I don't have a color in my master box, I can go back into my supply and find that color. So as you can see, I have lots of 310, and yeah, so I'm not going to run out of that anytime soon. However, I think the colors I surprisingly ran out of was 611, which is like a grayish brown, and I ran out of 975, which is like a burnt orangish type, and I needed both to move on to this one. So this one, again, 22 count. Wow, all of my projects this time are on 22 counts, so I think there's a theme there. So this one is QS Christmas Presents, and I'm so close to finishing it. I hoped I could get more done, but I didn't, but that just means that I can't wait to get back to it. So here's what Santa is going to look like when he's done. Okay, so this was a Heaven and Earth design pattern that I got because years ago, Heaven and Earth Design had a bulletin board, and they had, they would run they would run a mystery sal for their members. So that was kind of fun. I really enjoyed those. A lot of my projects actually are from the mystery sals, and they were specially charted for the mystery sal. They were a full coverage mystery sal, which of course is my preferred method of stitching, and it was so much fun. And so Santa, QS Christmas Presents, was part of that one. Here's how much I have done. So this is how much I had done before I picked them up this time. It's not a full-size page that's left, but on this one as well, I started on the diagonal. So here's how much is done. The detail is amazing. It's just so much fun to stitch on, and so as you can see, the page line is like right there. So I started going on the diagonal, and you can notice there is a tiny stitch missing, a couple of stitches missing right there and right there. So those were the missing colors. I finally got them, so I can fill those holes in before I move on to my next project. So we'll see what that will be, but I hope you enjoyed my update today. I really enjoy sharing my progress with all of you, and I hope it encourages you to stitch a little bit more and get some lovely stitching time. I've been watching a lot of Flosstube and enjoying watching all of your videos as well. And there's so many of you out there who stitch on these samplers, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful designs and patterns of samplers and they're really, really nice. So don't get me wrong. I love what you're stitching, but I do love my full coverage. So thank you so much for joining me. I guess I can say tonight. And I hope you enjoyed my little update. And let's see what the next 2 weeks brings. You never know. It's the weather is getting colder out there and darker, because here in Canada we turned our clocks back an hour today. So there's that. But that means that the days are getting darker quicker in the evenings. So maybe that means more stitching time. I'll take it, because you know, any amount of stitching time you get is never enough. So thank you so much for watching me. This is Vani saying happy stitching. Bye now.